Oh, great.
And let's do a quick, are there any questions or review or things about the Vav?
We did have
Other
questions,
than
but now I'm not
practice.
going to remember. We did have certain ones where we got stuck and we were like, oh, we have to ask Rabbi Sam, but I have to admit, I don't, at the moment, I'm not remembering.
Yeah, it's for example, and here's how you highlight, by the way.
Yes.
The other thing I found about PDF, and I don't know how it would work, how it works in Hebrew, but in PDF documents, there's actually a way of having it spoken. I found let me see. And I found it once. I'm not sure that it works with Hebrew, but there's actually a setting in PDF for having it read out loud.
Oh, wait, there's a setting in a PDF where it can read to you?
It can read to you in English
Oh.
PDF. I don't know how it works with Hebrew.
Oh, I need that.
But I found it once in PDF. I clicked on something in PDF and then clicked on some extra stuff. This one doesn't seem to be doing it.
That would be great to know how to do that. Oh, here's the other thing. It was with the hey,
Yeah,
that when the hey is at the end of a word, we didn't know, is it a
yeah. You
ha?
don't. You just ignore it. You can just ignore it.
Oh, it's not a ha. You don't do a soft HA sound.
No, you don't have to end with it. Any more than you do when you have like SARAH. Nobody knows whether a Sarah spells her name with an H at the end or not an H at the end.
Okay, then that's one area what we should clarify for Ahitsa when she joins, because we were doing sort of a soft HA sound.
Right. So here's an example of the Vav that may be the problem. Is this a Vav with a dot for an O, or is this just the O?
I know.
The key is, did a vowel come before it?
Yes.
Well, no, so it's mitzvot.
Just
Oh.
Mitzvot.
Exactly. Mitz, and you've got a vowel, so the next thing you need is a consonant, and then you've got a consonant, which is the Vav, so next thing you need is a vowel, which is the O. So mitzvot, as opposed to this one, where is it both or is it one? And you look at previously, and there's no vowel before it. The consonant has no vowel, so that must be the vowel for the consonant.
So it's matzot. Matzot?
Exactly, matzot.
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 Okay.
So that's going to be really hard to get my brain into that and to
right, and that will just come with practice. And then the next one that would be the problem is this an U? And you look before it and you see that there's a vowel already on the tzadi, so it can't be an U.
It has to be a vav.
Exactly, and it has a vowel, so it has to be a
Va.
It's that
Vanu.
Vitzivanu.
That's exactly what it is.
Vitzivanu. Vitzivanu. Okay.
Vitzivanu.
Vitzivanu.
Right. Other than just recognizing the kuf, there's probably not a lot of questions about it. That one's very straightforward.
Yep.
And I started with the shin because, again, if you only look at the shin, then the dot on the right is always going to be a shin. And the question for the shin is the dot up above telling you just that it's a shin, or is it also an O? And again, the clue is you look at the letter before, does it have a vowel? And the mem doesn't have a vowel, so the dot must be the vowel.
So Moshe.
Exactly, Moshe.
Moshe.
And this one.
Well, it's got both the sh and the s sound.
So you need the dot to tell you it's a shin, and then the shin has to have a vowel, and there isn't one below, so it must be the O.
So
Shoneh.
Shoneh, exactly.
Shoneh. Okay.
Right.
Now Shoneh.
Then the problem comes when you get both the shin and the sin. What is that vowel? What is that dot doing? And again, the clue is always look at the consonant before, look at the consonant itself, look for the vowels. I remember way back when I was young, you were always supposed to look for the union label.
Yeah. Still.
Yep, there was, I don't know, I've not seen that song played on commercials for a long time. Look for the union label. So here it's look for the vowel or consonant.
Excellent.
So here, it's no problem because there's only one dot.
Can you say, so that's
So this would be
asa,
Asa, exactly.
asa.
And here you continue to asara. And again, the hey is there for spelling purposes, but there's no vowel connected to it, so you get to ignore it.
Got it.
the second one. Is the second one desech?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Very good.
I
So
get it.
that's going to come with practice.
Yeah.
Then only the kaf, the bet, and the pay change their sound based on whether there's a dot inside of it. Anything else that has a dot, you can ignore the dot. But here, so it's ka, and here it's cha.
Wait, highlight it again. I'm sorry.
So this one, whoops. This one is a ka because there's a dot inside of it.
Ka.
And this one is a cha because there's no dot inside of it.
So the cha.
Right. And there's no difference between the cha of the kaf and the cha of the chet. As far as pronouncing.
What about the ka of the kaf, and the ka of the kuf?
Well, the ka, and there's no difference between the kaf, and the kuf.
Okay, so it's the same, all right? Just
They're
wanna
the
make
same kez. And the same thing, there's no difference between the vet
vav and
and
the
the
vet.
vav.
They just do it to make it a little harder.
Well, they do it for spelling purposes. Because, for example, you know, if you went outside and it was REIGN, you'd be really in trouble. Or REIN.
set it for you.
You know, raining cats and dogs, RAIN, is the cats and dogs are falling from the sky. Raining cats and dogs, REIN, is you've got yokes and
Leash.
leashes attached to them. So it's more likely to be raining cats and dogs with an E than with an A, if you want to be literal. And Hebrew has the same thing. There's going to be a difference between a chadash and a chadash, if it were with a chaf.
Say it
So-
again.
So there's going to be a difference between a word that has a chet as part of the word, as opposed to a chaf as part of a word.
What
Same
does it
thing,
sound like?
even the sounding will be the same, but the meaning will be different.
Got it.
Well, I
Right.
still get confused with the Shema, like that first word, it's bevet.
Yes, exactly. But
It is
it's
right. I wasn't
the-
sure if I had it right. Okay, when I was.
the as short as you can, veit, beveit,
Bevate.
beveit, be and v, dot, no dot.
Yep. Bevate.
And here, ko chavim.
Ko.
Him.
Ha. Vim.
Exactly. And that's giving you the kaf and the chaf, no dot, and the chaf and the vet rounded and extended.
Yep. So that's a challenging one. That's going to take real focus.
Right. And yeah, I mean, Hebrew takes focus in the same way that English does. We're no longer used to the fact that we're focusing on English.
Well, no, it's just that the letters all look the same.
Well, and you know,
Right,
so
I mean, if you have bad eyes,
yes,
that's why I moved the computer and I have the paper.
right.
Because the vet and the head,
Yeah.
it looks, if your eyes are not good, it's like when your eyes are bad, the 8s and the 6 look similar, and you have to
Right.
look carefully,
Well,
things like that when you.
Which
when you
is
get
why
older.
the nice thing about PDF is you can do this.
Yeah.
Nice.
So you can do what, you can PDF it
Really focus on it, yeah.
and see the difference in and yeah. So that takes care of that one.
Okay,
So this, oh,
So now we're going to spend our time on this.
Zion, Tet.
great, thank you.
These are your last 2 pages. Now
Great.
The last
Zion,
The last page is like the Shva. It has all these different rules. And I
right.
thought this page deserves a day by itself.
Well, we will be doing 9:30 to 11 for the next 2
I'm not
weeks,
sure I can join
just
that.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
And
the
thank you,
Zion,
This is great. Hopefully, I'll listen to the tape next week, but I'll be able to
Right.
do it the week after.
the Zion and the Vav, again, Zion is a little bit bent and goes over the top. The Vav is just straight
Great.
and comes around. And the Zion can have a dot inside of it, just like all the rest of the letters, but it's not one of the ones where it changes the sound, so you get to ignore it. So here's one where I reminded you of the Yud as a consonant because it has its own vowel.
So it's say Yit, right?
Zayat. Zayet.
Za, one dot,
At the end.
Zayit.
Now, is it Za or Z? Tell me.
Zzz. Well, it's not Z. Don't think English. Think sound.
So,
But
so do
with
it
the-
again for me, the sound.
The ah sound
Sound
under,
is
under it says it's za.
Za,
Yeet.
yeet. Exactly.
Zayit.
Zayit.
Sayit.
And that's the Hebrew word for an olive.
Oh, well, that's important.
Well, some people think so. So Zayit is an olive. All right, the next one
This
is, again, you can go up to the Shva and just pronounce the consonant because it's done. So the first syllable is,
Za.
no, just all the way up.
Zu.
Az, just go up to the Az.
Azuch.
No, Az. No, ooh. Remember the dot is just the dot inside a letter. So it's just
No, but the
Az.
dot and next to the Zion would make it an oo sound.
No, the dot only makes it an ooh if it's part of the Vav. Remember, the dot doesn't hang out, the dot hangs out on top, but that dot never hangs out in the middle. So this is just another letter with a dot inside of it, like the Taf down here has a dot inside of it.
Oh, and what does it do to the Zion?
It doesn't do anything that you need to deal with.
Okay, so
Az, and then you can move on.
So za, ha, no, za,
No, not za, just Az, and stop. Az,
az.
because the Shva did its job, it got you to pronounce the consonant.
Okay,
Then you move-
az.
Then move on to the next thing.
Chara,
But there's a dot inside of it. So it's not chara, but
kara,
exactly. Az kara.
az, kara.
Right.
Hara,
Az kara.
hara.
And then just reminding you of the difference between a Zion and a Tzadi in the sound. This is azkara, but this is atse. Not a z, but a z.
Atse, yeah, or atse,
No, just atse because the yud doesn't have any
okay.
vowel with it. So just
Atse.
atse.
Say team.
Zay team, exactly.
Ze, team, wow.
Right. And then again, reminding the ayin and the tzadi, that's why they're together here. Atse, zay team. And you can go all the way up to the mem as your first syllable. So you go
So it's
exactly and move on.
deem.
Exactly.
Om, deem.
Right. And then You put them all together eventually and you get Atse, Zaitim, Omdim. Atse is the plural of eitz, which you've learned before, which is tree. Atse is trees of. Zaitim is the plural of zayit, so it's olives. And omdim is are standing. Atse Zaitim Omdim is a olive trees or trees of olives are standing.
Okay.
And when you read it in full, you can feel that it sort of has a nice beat to it. Atse Zaitim Omdim. Sounds like it should be a song. Atse Zaitim Omdim. And it is. It's one of the old pioneer songs of Israel.
Nice.
Atse Zaitim Omdim. Atse Zaitim Omdim. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Atse Zaitim Omdim.
Nice.
And it was done as a round, where the verse was then, the pioneers are there for the work and the work is there for the pioneers, was the Hebrew song. Hechalutz leman avodah, avodah leman hechalutz, atse zaitim omdim, atse zaitim omdim. So that was an old Israeli song that we used to sing when we were kids. So now you're learning whole songs and phrases.
Okay.
All right, the next thing, remember the U is the only thing at the beginning of the word that's a vowel that doesn't need its own consonant.
Ooh.
Exactly, so you go and you
Ooh.
stop, and then you move on.
Tav.
Tav,
Tav.
and then you stop and you move on.
Now, what does the dot in the center of the tav mean there? The ta.
Doesn't mean anything to you because it doesn't change pronunciation as far as you're
Okay.
concerned.
Tem.
Exactly. Tav, tem.
Okay.
Tav.
And again, you just stop at each tav, tem. And then the next one.
Where are you? Highlight it. Got it. Al.
Exactly, very simple. And then the next one gives you some good Zion practicing.
So you do a
Or just get as short as you can.
meh.
Go ahead.
What does the three dots mean?
Remember what the three dots were?
Oh, it's an O.
Ooh,
Ooh. Mezuzot.
exactly.
Susot.
Mezuzot,
Mezuzot.
which is the plural of mezuzah.
Nice. Sam, you're
And
so encouraging. I'm very grateful. You are an incredibly nice teacher. You're
All
very
right, and then-
encouraging and you're terrific. Thank
Right.
you.
And then remember the yuds, which don't have vowels under them, you can ignore.
So.
So it's just, so the next, the highlighted, there's a dot inside.
V.
No,
No,
dot.
V. Oh,
Exactly, with the vowel. Two dots.
Bay.
No, just no, you don't have to do yeah, because there's no vowel with it. So just bay.
Bay. Te.
No, there's three dots.
Te.
Right, bay, te, and you can ignore the
Yeah.
yud because there's no, ignore the yud because there's no vowel with it. And you move to the end.
Bay. Te.
And there's a vowel under it.
Uh-oh, I can't see it. What is that?
Ah, it's an A.
Ah?
It's a little T.
E. Is it an
Yeah,
E? Be.
No.
Te.
Wait a minute, I'm just, gotta
Right.
get, there we go. Now you can see it. Bay, te.
Oh,
cha.
got it. Cha.
Yep, bay, te, cha.
Be. Te. Cha.
And then the next one, the final one is long, but you just take it apart. So it's U,
U, va,
Now one dot.
vi, vi,
and you can go all the way up to the next letter,
vish,
right?
vish,
Pause, and then a vowel.
arai,
No yud, just
re,
right? Re,
are, cha.
exactly. And this is
What does that sound like?
an entire phrase from the Ahavta. Uch tav tam. Here, we'll just uch tav tam. Uch tav
Uch.
tem.
Uchtav, tam,
Tem.
tem,
Al
al,
mizuzot.
mezuzot,
Beitecha.
vetecha,
But beitecha.
vetecha,
Uvish arecha. And notice uvish. Pause.
uvish,
Arecha.
arecha.
Exactly. And you will write them on the doorpost, mezuzot, of your houses and in your gates.
Okay.
So all of that. And then more practice. And again, remember the Zion, when it has a dot inside of it, you ignore the dot because it's just a dot inside a letter that doesn't change the sound. So ha-zan,
Hassan,
Hassan, is it Hassan or Hassan?
ha.
Hassan, Hazan.
Right. If it were with a chet, it would be a chazan, and that's a cantor. With
Oh,
a hey, it's hazan, and it means the one who feeds.
nice.
Hassan.
Hazan et
Et,
mizo note. And again, Zion vav. Mizo
zo,
note.
no.
Right.
It's so notes.
Mizo note. And then one dot im,
Then it's
ez. You can stop at the Zion.
Im,
Ez core.
as, what is it?
Core, dot inside. Ez core.
Core. As core.
Exactly. And then the last one, yeah, short, because the yud does have a vowel now. Yeah, ru,
Rushal.
la,
Shalayim.
la, yim.
Yerushalayim.
That's it.
Okay, Lerushalayim.
Exactly. And here the yud does have a vowel, so you don't ignore it, you use it.
Layim.
Exactly. Yerushalayim. And this im as core Yerushalayim is again a phrase. Now the tet, and there's no difference in the sound between the tet and the taf. Both are just t. But again, where they are in the word will change the meaning of the word. So if it were written with a tet, it means one thing. If it written with a taf, it means another thing.
So to,
No dot on top.
toe,
Exactly. Tov.
tov.
So
Right.
Like
which
boker
means-
tov.
Right. Tov means good.
That's a good one to know.
Yep. And the next one, notice the dot's in a different place, so it's not tov.
Tuv, ya.
Exactly. And you don't have to pronounce the hey because it's at the end. So tuv ya.
Which means what?
So tov is good.
Good.
Tuv is sort of goodness.
Nice.
And when you have the yud, the ya at the end of a word, it's an abbreviation for God's name, Yud He Vav He. So Tuv Ya is the goodness of God.
Wow. Wow.
All right, and lots of tet practicing.
Okay.
So
Tota.
no dot inside, so it's
Huh.
not
Totafot.
Exactly. Totafot,
Totafot, which
So-
means what?
which is a word for symbols or signs. It's usually translated in the Ve'ahavta as frontlets. That's what you're supposed to do, is put these words as totafot. Now, the next one. And again, Shva says just go up to it, stop with the letter, and then move on. And you'll tell me what this word means after you sound it out.
It's 10.
Tem. Bo.
No vowel with the yud, so you don't need it.
Oreen.
And what's this final letter?
I forgot.
That's the noon, isn't it?
Yep, the final nun.
Oh. So
Tem, bo, reen.
Tambourine.
That's it.
tambourine. Ha.
Yes,
Tambourine. Ha.
green tambourine.
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 Exactly.
Boring.
Okay, now notice the tet has a dot inside of it, but it's not one that changes the sound, so you get to ignore it. So it's
Okay.
just
Matot.
exactly matot. Now comes the fun one where the difference between a tet and a taf makes a difference. So this is pronounced
Torah.
which certainly sounds like something that you know,
Torah.
but it's not, because it's not. Torah that has the scroll has a taf to begin with. Torah happens to be the Aramaic word for an ox.
Oh, wow. Like tar, like I'm thinking it's, okay, wow.
It's actually in Chad Gad Yah, in the verse where the ox comes and drinks up the water, it's a Torah,
Wow.
because that happens to be an Aramaic song. Okay, the next one, again, you can go right up to the letter and stop because it's Shva and then move on. So this
So
is,
Haftara.
Tara.
and again, the hey at the end gets to be not pronounced because there's no vowel connected to it. So just,
So Haftara.
right, which exactly is the thing that you read after you read the Torah. And you notice that Haftarah is not half a Torah, because it's not the same root word, Haftarah.
And what does it mean? What is Haftara that you
It
read?
actually means the closing or the sealing
Gotcha.
up.
Hmm.
So it's the sealing up of the Torah lesson with a parallel prophetic lesson. And the last aliyah is called the maftir, which comes from that same root. And then, yes, once you sound out this one, you'll notice exactly what it is. And that is what they call it in Israel.
Telephone.
Phone.
Ha. Telephone. Ha ha.
Back in the carrying your phone around with you days, they had boxes with phones hanging out of them. And in Hebrew was written above them, telephone.
Telephone.
And now you're back to a whole phrase of the second half of a long blessing. And now you had last time Ner Shel Chanukah and Ner Shel Shabbat. And now you've Ner Shel Yom HaKippurim.
Where
Now
are
you
you? Where are you?
Ner Shel Yom Tov.
Okay. Ner. Shel. Yom. Tov.
Exactly. Literally, candle of day good. A
Okay.
holiday that's not a major holiday is called a Yom Tov, a good day.
Great.
All right, now comes some tricky stuff. Remember that when you had the ah with two dots next to it, it stayed ah.
Where, like where?
So like the ah here,
Where? Okay, thank you.
if you had the ah here with the schwa next to it, it would still be an ah.
Okay,
And if you had the eh with two dots next to it, it was still an eh. So that way back at the beginning. So you had those forms. I don't know if I have any on this page. Yeah, here, way up here. So the ah with the two dots next to it is still ah.
gotcha.
Doesn't change. However, the T vowel, when you have two dots, the schwa next to it, it changes from an ah to an o, a very short o.
Sai, so,
Sa,
sa,
o,
o,
la,
la.
sa, ho, la.
So now why don't they just do the regular O sound instead of that?
Because when they created the whole system of pointing, they did it on the basis of all sorts of rules. Basically, when you have a shvad vowel, it says normally that vowel, that consonant would have had just a plain shva, but that consonant can't really take a plain shva because then there's nothing left to pronounce. So what it's saying is if this had been like a mem, it would just been sam with a shva. But because it's not, it's a hey, which can't really take a shva easily, they stick a little bit of a longer vowel with it. Sahola,
Sa, olam.
Allah.
Up, sa, okay. Sa, ola.
Right. And then the next one is Oniya.
O,
Yeah.
nia.
And again, ya because the yud has a vowel and it's not just part of the e. Oniya,
Onia.
which is a boat.
So,
Now, sometimes this that you thought was an ah is really an o. The good thing about that is it's very rare and you can just memorize the words. So you would think that this was kal,
Kal, yeah.
but it's not, it's kol.
Why?
This particular combination means all or every or each.
This
And
is 29.
under many circumstances, it has the dot up above for the O. But because of the way the Masoretes created the punctuation syllabification system, sometimes you couldn't put the O on top, but you still, remembering that in the Torah, it was just a kaf and a lamed.
Mm.
And people knew who were using that to read that it was the word for all or every, and so therefore all or every or each is always pronounced kol. So it's the kaf and the T vowel and the lamed in combination, even if that combination is part of a longer word. So uv, and then you've got your, and remember kaf and chaf with the dot, without the dot is the same word in Hebrew. It's just pronounced differently because of certain rules. So uv, you would think it was uv chal, but it's actually uv chol.
Uv hole.
And now what's going to happen with that is when you're practicing, you may read kal and you may read uv chal, but once you get to where we're actually learning vocabulary and phrasing and things like that, those are very quick and easy things to correct because you just go back and say, oh yes, that was kol. Oh yes, that was uv chol. The same thing in the last one. You would think it was kad shecha.
Yes. Kad shecha.
Exactly. But it's actually kod shecha because the root word is kodesh, holiness. And again, when you're reading for your own practicing and you're reading word by word, syllable by syllable, it's not a problem to say kad shecha. once you've got started learning vocabulary and phrasing and stuff like that, those are quick and easy ones to just memorize. Oh yes, that one was Kodshecha. So don't worry about this. This one, the ah with the shva next to it is always O, so that one you won't get confused about once you've learned it. This one, when is it ah, when is it O? It happens rarely, and once you're developing much more reading fluency, I correct a word and you memorize the word. So don't worry about that. If you're practicing and you go sahala, oniya, kal, uvkal, kadshecha, when you're practicing and you get it up to that kind of speed, I'll correct a word here and there. So this is not to worry too much about. Now you have a samech,
Okay,
which is the same sound as the sin. Both S's, both S, but again, meaning is what will change. The difference between the samech and the final mem, notice, is rounded and squared, which
Yeah.
is not always easy to see. However, the final mem can't be in the middle of a word.
that one's easier to differentiate to my eyes, but
Right. And so the samech here, even though it's at the end of the word, this is a samech. It's rounded as opposed to the final mem, which would be squared. So here's a word where they are together.
So it's nisim.
nisim,
Exactly. Nisim, which we read on Hanukkah and we'll read on Purim. Nisim is the word for miracles. It's the plural of nes,
nace,
which is what the nun on the dreidel stands for. Nes gadol, a great miracle. So this is just a matter again of practicing this.
so
Lanu.
The very first one,
Lan-
first word. You skipped that one.
Yeah, la news. All right,
La
so now the
news.
first one,
Was it, let's see, was it Besanim?
that's exactly this
sa meme.
exactly.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
So the final summit is S.
Right. The samech is S no matter where it shows up.
Okay.
Right. The final mem only shows up at the end of the word. Samech, like every other letter, can be anywhere in the word that doesn't have a final form.
Okay.
So this one is, and again, two vowels, so you have to separate them.
La,
I don't see that.
so,
Right.
Asok?
La, ah, sok.
la,
La,
ah, so,
Because you have to get both the ahs in there. La, ah, sok.
That,
la, sok.
Right. And then the
that
next
has
one.
something to do with Sukkot or not?
Nope, not yet. No, that's not Sukkot. You'll see.
This
Alright.
is Betty Bear.
Bediv.
Betty Bear.
No, Bediv.
Betty.
Ray,
Right. Bediv Ray.
the div, ray, be, div, ray.
Exactly. And then this one.
Torah.
And you put these all together. And this is the last line of the blessing before we read Torah normally, when it's not part of the Torah service, but we're just studying Torah. We would end Vitzivanu, and has commanded us la'asok, to
La'asok.
engage in bedivrei, in the words of Torah. La'asok bedivrei Torah.
That's Ephraim.
And a fun way of remembering that blessing that I learned from a rabbi friend of mine, which Rav Claudia learned from me, which Rav Claudia sometimes shares, is when we say the blessing for studying Torah, we la'asok b'divrei Torah, literally to engage in the words of Torah, but by using the English sound, we soak ourselves in a Torah bath. We soak in the words of Torah. La'asok, we soak in. Nothing to do with just a coincidence. All right. When you're traveling around Jerusalem, you might go,
Oh,
Ah,
I forgot what that is already.
that's your new ta, t
Okay.
sound.
Autobus.
bus.
Right.
Autobus.
You might be in a autobus, in a bus. Right. But in Israel, they didn't make it just a bus, they made it an autobus. The 65 autobus.
Autobus. That's the way it is in some places and in some countries in Spanish.
Right.
They
And
say
again, now here you've got whole phrases of, here you've got whole phrases of blessings. Vahu nisi umanos li menat kosi biyom ekra, which is a whole line from a song called
Ado.
Olam.
Adon.
Adon
Olam.
Olam.
Could you
Now
read
you-
that whole line slower
So,
again?
Right. Vahu
Vahu.
nisi
Let me see.
umanos
Humanos.
li menat kosi yom, and the yud has a vowel, so it's a consonant. Yom ek ra,
Ek Ra.
and that's a whole line from Adon Olam.
Adon Alam.
Right.
Shem Alam.
Vahu nisi umanos li menat kosi biyom ek ra.
What does
Adon Olam.
Adonayam mean?
Adon Olam means
Olam.
literally eternal master or master of the world or master of the space-time continuum. Olam is all sorts of things. Now, two more fun things.
Okay. Fun.
So we learned that the yud was part of the E and part of the A. And when we learned that the yud had a vav after it, you ignored the yud. Or when the yud had a cha after it, you ignored the yud. But what if the yud is the very last thing in the word? Then we do get the only diphthongs in Hebrew. And it's no longer a, but I.
I.
So azai.
Azai.
And you saw it before, Adonai, now you know why it works. You look at this one, Elohai.
Elohai.
Exactly. And Panai.
Panai.
So when you get the A and the Yud, you get I.
I.
get the and the yud. Say it again.
At the end of a word, only at the end of a word, and a Yud at the end of the word becomes I.
Okay. But
Only at the end of a word. So Eli, you already knew.
Eli.
Right, that's normal. But the chai,
Vachai.
right, means end life. And when you get the O and a yud at the end of the word, it becomes oi.
I'm not.
Oi.
My brain is over right now. It's too much for.
Right, this is what you're practicing all next week.
Yeah.
Wait, so show us so on the last
So here we go. So
goy,
exactly, just goy.
gadol,
Then
gadol,
normal and
Or
oi,
uh-oh. Wait, what is that?
oi.
Just oi.
And you put them together and it becomes oily,
Oily. Oily?
but not oily, but oily.
Oily.
Pause, 2 words. And oi actually is a biblical word. It means woe.
Excellent.
Oily literally means woe to me.
Oily.
That's when people say, oh, Lee.
Exactly. Oy veyes mir is what became in Yiddish. So, but the Hebrew actually is oi. The hardest one is the u and the yud at the end, which is ui,
Oi.
not ui, but ui.
Oi.
Oi and ui.
Oi.
So,
Rasui.
ratsui.
Rasui.
Ra. Su. Yi. Yi.
Right, ratsui.
Ratsui.
But it's
And-
really hard to remember when you don't have when you don't have it in front of you.
Right. And vidui.
V. Dewy.
Dewey, right. And vidui is a confessional.
Mm.
It's what at the thing you say when you're dying traditionally in Judaism is a vidui, a personal confessional.
Rabbi, I have a question. So you
Yes.
said that this is the case for the only diphthong that we find in Hebrew?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's
So-
only at the end of the word and only when the yud is the last letter of the word. And technically, it's also in A and E, it's a diphthong, but we don't notice the difference. But we'll get back to that. The ones where you notice are I, oi, and ui. Final one exception to the consonant vowel rule. This combination only, at the end of the word only, the vowel comes before the consonant. So you would have thought to pronounce this ru-ha,
Yes.
but this is the flipped sound, so it becomes ru-ah,
Ruah.
which is spirit or wind, or, and then this one is
Noah.
exactly, which is the guy who built an ark. Noah.
Ah, okay.
Bo.
But
To.
Butea.
Exactly. Bo
Wow.
te ah.
Bo. Te.
So, yeah, because,
Only at the end of the word and only that combination.
okay, yeah, I know. It's like when we say the sound is ah.
Right. The
And
sound is
Ahitsa, I asked him at the beginning about the hey at the end of a word, and there's no sound. It's like Sarah, where we don't pronounce the H. So normally the hey has no.
right. Unless it has a vowel with it.
Thank you. Okay.
And then again, not lucha, but
Luah.
exactly luach.
Luach.
Wow.
Luach.
And this one is ko-
Ka.
Oh, hot, hoha.
Koach.
koach. End of the
Koach.
word. Switch the sounds. Koach.
Koach.
Now, this one is to show you that when it's not at the end of the word, it's normal order. So shiv, cha,
Okay. Shivcha.
and then this one is normal order because it's not that combination. So it's shiv, cha, cha.
What?
Shiv, cha, cha.
Okay. Shiv. Cha. Cha.
Exactly. But here it does go to the end of the word.
Ro.
Rotsha.
Rotsoa.
No, 2 dots. Wrote say.
Rotsea.
Rotseach.
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 Right.
Rotse.
And here it's not at the end of the word. So it's
Menohati. Menohato.
exactly menuchato.
Menuhato.
If you
Ha-ha.
cut out the toe ending, it
Tov.
would be menuach.
Menu.
And is it tov or toe?
Toe, just
Toe.
taf with a vowel, not a consonant. Menucha toe. But menuach, if you didn't have the toe at the end, then this would be at the end of the word. See, if you only read it this much, it's menuach.
And how do you remember that that's not a vav?
Because it doesn't have it, the taf needs a vowel, and this one, the vav doesn't have its own vowel.
Well, it has the dot above it, but
But the taf, right, because the taf needed a vowel. You see, if there were another dot here, it would be menucha tovo. But here, the taf needs a vowel. The o completely fills the role of vowel.
all right, thank you.
And then again, manuach, rather manoach.
Manoach.
Exactly. All right, so let me just show you this worksheet that I gave you,
Thank you.
because now, whoops. All right, now you have on 2 pages, every letter in
Wow.
alphabetical order going down with the name of the letter. First sound gives you the sound. And when there's a dot and not a dot, that makes a difference.
Wonderful.
Fabulous.
I
And
didn't look
going
at that.
across the top, you have every vowel. E, a, o, u.
Was that on the second attachment?
Yes,
Okay, because I didn't get that far. All right.
yes. So this is, now notice at the end of the line, there's a number. The
Page.
number tells you what page that consonant was introduced.
Oh, good.
So you're reading along now and you're practicing, and you suddenly look at this thing and you say, what was that again? You go back to the sheet and you find, oh yes, it's a gimel. I better go back to page 8 and practice the gimel page section.
Fabulous.
And you notice the vowels have numbers attached to them.
Page
That's
number.
the page on which the vowel was introduced. So you forget what those 3 dots going that way were. And you go here and you go, oh yes, that's the oo. I better go back to page 7 and practice that one.
Thank you.
So this is,
very helpful.
yep, you forget the difference between the bet and vet, you go back to page 12. At the very bottom of it is the special things, the final letters, and the page they were introduced, the special pronunciations, and the pages they were introduced, and the shva and the pages that it was introduced.
Fabulous.
So that whole sheet,
Rabbi,
Then-
when I was studying for my adult bat mitzvah, there was I remember something called a shavuk. We didn't do that. What was
the
that?
shuruk, yeah, that's the names of the u and the o vowels have their own names. So let's go back to that. All right, so this one is called, technically this is called, I didn't give you the names here. This is called a kamatz. This is called a patach. This is called a chirik. This is called a tsere. This is called a segol. This is called a cholam malay and a cholam chaser, a full cholam and a lacking cholam. And this is a kubutz, and this is a shuruk.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So they all had
I
vowels.
remember that, it's like when you were saying, and I thought, is that another letter? Okay.
Yes, and again, as with the consonant, the first thing you see is the sounding of the consonant. The first vowel you hear is the sounding of the vowel. Kamatz, patach, and this one technically is chirik chaser and chirik malay. Sere chaser, sere malay, lacking sere and full sere. All right, so we will do 9:30 to 11 for the next 2 weeks. what I think I'll do is from 9:30 to 10, we'll do any questions on any of the letters that you wanted to review and go over. And then from 10 to 11, you'll actually begin to look slowly at reading fluency. So I'll send you material for next week for the 26th that you'll begin reading practice, and then send you material for the second that you'll do reading practice for. But 9:30 to 10, we'll do letter and vowel review, but use that sheet. And you can have that sheet next to you so that when you're reading for practice and you come across the ooh, 3 dots going diagonally down and you say, what was that? You can find it very quickly. You don't have to go back through all the pages to find it. And then you can go back to that page to do practicing of it. Reading fluency is just going to come from practice. All
Thank
right.
you, Rabbi Sam. Thank you very much.
Yes,
So
thank you.
yes, we will take, and I was in the, all right, so we're done with that.